Hello, I'm Alan Furstenberg.
And I'm Mark Tucker, and we are Two Voice Devs.
Two Voice Devs. So, Mark, do you know what this is?
I do know what it is.
I do know what it is. Do you think our audience knows what it is?
Some of them probably do. We can surprise them though. Surprise!
It is our 50th episode.
I know. I can't believe it.
Can you believe we've been doing this for 50 weeks?
It's just gone by really fast, actually.
It really has.
It's been good.
It's been wild, but it's been fun. And when I realized we were coming up on 50, you and I started discussing doing something special for our golden episode.
Yeah, we did talk about that, and you've done a lot of work, and you kind of hinted at it at the end of last episode. Do you want to do the teaser again?
So last week we were talking about releasing skills and actions and what that process was like. And I mentioned that I had an action that has been approved and is about to be released. And now I can announce it has been released. And the action is the Two Voice Devs action. So, yay! So from now on, you will be able to say, hey, G, talk to Two Voice Devs. And you'll be able to bring up an action that is all about this podcast.
So right off the bat, you can listen to the most recent episode. So that's a quick way to hear what we've been up to and get that that latest clip. But there's more.
There's a lot more. I mean, what I kind of, when we were talking about it, I think what kind of motivated us were two big things. The first is I feel like very few people in the voice industry are really what we refer to as dog fooding.
Yeah, there could be a better term than that,
which,
but yeah.
Admittedly, it's not the greatest term in the world, yeah. But, we're basically not using our own tools as part of the process.
Right.
And I find that in some ways really frustrating because without doing that, we don't know what's missing, how we can improve things, what needs to be done.
Right.
So when it came to podcasting, I thought it would be very useful to have an action and a skill that was kind of directly tied to the podcast. So use these tools as part of our own podcast. And we couldn't get it to work for a skill. We'll talk about that later. But I think it was important that we at least try to start things off with the action.
Yeah.
And then, as we discussed, what does that mean? What does that sound like? What do you do with that?
Yeah, what's that experience?
Right. I think we kind of started focusing in on, what is interactive podcasting feel like? Podcasting is very traditionally a kind of one-way medium. The podcasters say stuff and the audience listens, and maybe the audience, sends email or posts on a social forum or something. But what is a direct conversation as part of a podcast? What does that sound like? And I'll be honest, I don't think we have answers. I don't think anybody knows. But I think we wanted to start creating that platform to figure out those answers.
Yeah, there's still things to figure out, and so we can definitely. It was good to have this experience and try to think, well, what would we want, or what would our listeners want as far as tools to help them?
What are the things that are not traditionally done? What are the things that are hard to do? And what does it sound like if we try it?
Yeah.
And, like I said, I don't think we have all the answers, but I think now we've got a platform where we can start asking the questions and figuring out what does and what doesn't work. So that's part of what this is. This isn't, we're releasing it to the world and it's done. This is, we're putting it out there and we want feedback.
Yeah, here's version 1. And
as Roger said a couple of weeks back, this is the start of the conversation, not the end of the conversation.
Yeah, I like that.
It's really true. And I really, that's the sort of thing that I think about. And he phrased it so well. So let's start by talking about what will you be able to do with this new action. So as you said, you'll be able to listen to the most recent podcast. When it's available, it'll be out there and available through the action right away.
Can I tell you my favorite feature?
What's your favorite feature?
The ability to search. So you can say search for games.
Yep.
And it'll listen and say, oh, there's 5 or 6 episodes, whatever, of games. Here's the first one. And then it skips to that first mention of games. Now, is it the paragraph that I haven't quite got that, but I think it's the paragraph right before, or that first includes that word.
It's the paragraph that first includes the word. One of the other interesting things about that search is that it is a weighted search. So if you give a term, the first result is the one that mentions that term the most.
The most, yeah. And what is it using?
Oh, what is it using?
Yeah, for the search, is it like the title, the contents?
It's using the title and the content.
Okay.
So all of that gets factored in, using various other weights that I don't, I don't really want to go into. The other neat thing is, as you say, it puts you right into the first paragraph that talks about it, and you can keep listening from that point. Or you could say, skip to another occurrence. And that will go to the next place in the same podcast that has that term. And you can keep skipping along. And if you run out of occurrences, it goes to the next one. Or at any time, you could say, go to another episode or go to the next episode, and it will skip to the next episode in the list. And, there were some interesting design decisions and discussions that we had about this. Because a pretty common thing that people think about when they return search results is to say something like, you have 6 results. The first was in episode 39, blah, blah, blah. The second was in episode 42, blah, blah, blah. The third was in episode whatever, blah, blah, blah. Which do you want to listen to? And then start playing the episode.
Or alternatively, it's like, here's the first one, title, do you want to listen to this? Yes or no? Next.
Right, yeah. So we thought that was kind of an extra step. There was, what people are most likely going to do is listen to the one that has the most occurrences and listen to it starting at a place that made sense. So we just launch you right into it. Mm-hmm. And if you go to the next episode, it launches you at what it thinks is the best, point to start you off at. So rather than adding a lot of extra steps, we go right to the important bit.
Right. And it could be, whatever the topic is. Like I said, it could be games, or it could be intense, or it could be,
Yep. Interactive canvas, or, APL. All of these are totally valid search terms. So we're kind of curious in some ways to see what people actually search for. And, will that shape what we talk about? Will that shape how, other features that we put into this? I don't know. We'll find out. So one of the things I talked about, so I love search. I spent a lot of time working on the search, and it was really, really fun to do. And also had some interesting side effects. So one of the things, in order to do this, we needed to get accurate transcripts. And as we got accurate transcripts, we now have accurate subtitles. So if you're watching this on YouTube, since we started doing this, there are now word accurate subtitles that will appear. And we now have transcripts. So in the future, we can populate a website with just the transcript. So people who don't want to or can't listen can just read it. Yep. And I think these will be, powerful multimodal experiences that we're now able to do. But all of that's on the searching end of it. And kind of when I introduced it, I said, what is an interactive podcast like? And to me, that kind of implies, I don't know about you, when I listen to podcasts sometimes, or when I listen to the radio sometimes, and somebody says something, I start shouting at the radio or at the speaker or at whatever. And they can't hear me, of course. But with this, we can hear you. So at any point, you can say that you want to send feedback, or reply about something and dictate a comment, and that comment will be sent to us and attached to the episode at the timestamp that you sent it. So you don't have to wait until the end of the podcast. You don't have to send an email later. You don't have to be drafting an email as you're listening. As something happens, if you feel like you want to respond, respond. It will record what you say. Actually, it transcribes what you say,
Right.
and then puts you right back in the episode exactly where you left off.
That's neat.
I think it is. I think this ability to interrupt yourself and then get right back into it is powerful. One of the features that we're planning, and we've got a bunch of other features that I just couldn't make it for this version, is something similar to that, so that you'll be able to not just record a comment to us, but take a note for yourself. So either put a bookmark there or just take a note reminding you about this. And then later being able to go in and look at your notes or listen to your notes or whatever. Right. And again, go right back into that point. So if there's something that you think is important, you'll be able to say, remind me of this later. And then later, once you've finished the entire episode, you can come back and find those elements that are important to you.
Yeah, no, that's really a handy feature. I like the idea of being able to, at different point in the content, to, like you say, like to make notes or to give feedback or to do something, even if it's like, no, wait, what was that again? Can you rewind the back in 5 seconds or something?
Going back 5 seconds, I think, is something that is built in, but if not, it's certainly a feature that we should be putting in. And maybe it's important to you to know where you repeated something over and over. Yep. Is that information that's useful to you to know? Maybe it is. That's the kind of feedback that we would really love to hear about what features people want in the future.
Yeah, and as we have more people listening and we can see like, oh, this was a really good episode. People commented a lot on this, or like this particular part. Maybe we talked about it just a little bit and we can focus an episode on just that topic or things like that.
Exactly. So, your comments are your time relevant comments are incredibly useful to us. So we're looking forward to see how you use it. The other thing I should point out about that feedback right now, it's totally anonymous. So, we know that a particular user said something, but we don't know who said it. And that anonymity, we'll see how that goes. I think it's important, but we'll see how it goes. We may make it so that, if you choose to log in, it'll log it against your name. Or, I don't know, we'll see. Your feedback and your thoughts there are also very much welcome.
So Alan, you spent a lot of time working on this, cleaning up the transcripts and coding it. And we talked about doing an Alexa skill, but there are definitely some technical differences between the two platforms that would be challenged. Things like interrupting the middle of the flow to say something and then get back into it. And so in the end, we just didn't have time to tackle that in time for our 50th episode. But congratulations for putting in all the hard work and getting this action out.
I think it's a shame that we weren't able to figure out all the technical issues around a skill, because, I think you and I are both very committed to cross-platform work.
Yes.
This was built on top of multivocal, which isn't quite cross-platform yet, but this could have also been the motivation for me to get it there.
Right.
But ultimately, the biggest barrier that we had was some of the features that we really wanted to do, things like being able to provide feedback, being able to set bookmarks. We just couldn't figure out how to do it in Alexa long audio.
It's just challenging, and for sake of expediency, it was like just go for the action, and we'll figure out what we want to do.
Yep. So
the Alexa skill later.
We're not forgetting Alexa, and we're not forgetting Bixby, but we wanted to get something out there and start working with it, and then see how to get it elsewhere.
Right.
So and that kind of goes into, well, we're a developer show. We should talk a little bit about how we actually made this. And I guess even, I was thinking about, talking about a lot of the code, but even before then, it's, well, how do we get from recorded audio and video into something that is searchable? And for that, we relied on an existing transcription software. And we evaluated a couple of them, but based on a recommendation of a lot of people, we went with a program called Descript. And they're fantastic because what Descript's actual big claim to fame is that you can edit audio by adjusting the script. So you are presented with for video, a side-by-side, the script and the video. And as you cut words out of the script, portions disappear from the audio and video, which is pretty remarkable. It's pretty amazing when you see it. It also does very good speaker detection. And its transcription is pretty good, but since I wanted perfect, as I do the editing, and I do editing anyway to remove pauses, to remove places where we mess up, it also gave me the opportunity, because, it happens occasionally, just sometimes. Occasionally, but it gave me the opportunity to go and edit the transcript as well to get it pretty close to perfect. So it then exports to a bunch of different formats, including captions, and it'll also export to just a text version. And I wrote some tools to slice and dice this text version into a format that we could put it into a database easily enough. And from there, we've got some search magic going on, which again, I'm not going to talk about because that's some of the magic bits going on here. But it's also a replaceable part. If I find a better search tool, I can swap it out. When you actually start up the action, one of the things that I kind of liked, this was a fun feature to put in, is that we open up with one of our typical greetings. The same way that we open up the episode, we open up the action with a little twist. And since our opening episodes, we kind of flip a coin most weeks about who starts off, whether it's Mark or I figured it should be just as random about how the action starts. And again, so I'll probably put up at this point what the configuration looks like in multivocal. Multivocal handles all of that through configuration rather than code. And basically what we have is two possible opening messages, one that starts with Mark and one that starts with me. And that's pretty straightforward inside multivocal itself.
Yeah, no, it would be good to see how that happens under the hood there.
The fun thing is under the hood, it's really, we just list two strings, which are speech markdown strings, I should also point out.
So we got to use both of our pet projects.
Of course we did. There was no way I would have been able to do this with just SSML. It was important to use speech markdown for this. So that was a fun way to start it off. Other bits is, since it's long form audio, we're using the media player that's part of Actions on Google at this point. And one of the interesting things about Media Player, and the reason why we're able to do things like let you record where you are, or make a note where you are, and then return immediately back into the audio, is that when you interrupt it, one of the bits of information that it includes as part of the fulfillment, as part of the webhook, is where in the audio you currently are. So I can then say, okay, now go back to the audio and start at this point in time. So that's again, a nice feature that's now in Media Player that lets us do these, conversational long audio, which is really good.
And you could, you can imagine in the future where you're having some audio and then maybe you stop and there's like a question about, what were the top three, blah, 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 or, something that had to do with something that you had just listened to, maybe the 5 or 10 minute segment you had just listened to.
Mhm.
And then you could answer that
Or
and go on,
or even something like, if you're listening to, for example, the latest episode and we're talking about something that piques your interest, you could just say something like, well, tell me more about that.
Yep.
And contextually, we have the timestamp that you said that, and we can look at the transcript and see, okay, what were we talking about at that point in the transcript, and provide you with search results that match the term. Or say, here are some of the things that we were talking about, which did you mean? And let you, it's almost a dynamic hypertext in some ways, a dynamic contextual hypertext, which sounds cool. And I have no idea what that would actually look like, but I'd love to play with it someday.
Yeah, I could imagine, like we're talking about something like, oh, and that was, something that we referenced, 2 episodes ago. And then you're like, hey, I want to listen to that. And so then it could, pause where you were and jump you over to that other episode. And you say, okay, now go back to where I was. And then it would go back and,
yep.
So yeah, that's kind of an interactive, choose your own podcast.
Choose your own audio stream. Yeah. No, it could be really powerful.
Yep.
And again, I think, building this platform now gives us the way to start experimenting with that kind of technology and see what people try to do with it. Much of we've already talked a little bit about how we handle search results, the fact that we're just launching you right into it, and how you can give us your feedback. And then again, it goes right back in and returns you to the audio you're listening to. Kind of, I guess, one of the big focuses for me in designing this is really, when you listen to a podcast, you want to get to listening to the podcast as quickly as you can.
Yes.
The point is to listen to the podcast, not to navigate a lot of steps to get there.
So can you give me a sample utterance on what you would say if you wanted to leave some feedback while you're listening to the podcast?
Sure. So while it's playing, you could say something like, hey, G, leave a comment. And it will prompt you, what message do you want to leave for the host? And you leave it. And then it goes right back into the audio stream again, within a couple of seconds of where you left off.
That's pretty easy.
It's, again, it goes back to this. The whole point is you want to be listening to podcasts. That's what you're doing. But you also want to take this very, very short side trip to leave a comment and then get right back to what you were doing. So as much as possible, we don't want to interrupt your flow.
That's good. Do we want to talk about the challenges of invocation?
Yeah, we should, because people are going to have problems probably. And there are actually 2 interesting problems. The first is that you might accidentally get the podcast version rather than the action version. So if you say something like play 2 voice devs, it will play it on Google Podcasts. What you need to be able to say is talk to 2 voice devs. Or you could say something like ask 2 voice devs to play the latest episode. So you want to either talk to us or ask us something. You don't want to try to open us up or play
us, man.
Yeah. So that's the first problem. The second problem is that every so often there are a bunch of people that it doesn't hear 2 voice devs. And we went back and forth about changing the name of the action to make it something that would be easier to pronounce. In the end, we stayed with 2 voice devs because that's what we're already using. And if you have trouble with it, my biggest recommendation is to set up a routine.
Yeah, I did that. It was pretty easy to do. Just, create a routine, give it, what phrase that you want to say that would invoke it, and then just have it, execute the call out to the action.
Right. And you can set up that routine to even, do other things. So you could just say, listen to Mark, and it would play the most recent episode of 2 voice devs. Again, it's up to you how you set that routine and how you set the invocation phrase. But if you're having problems, routines are the best way to go for not just for this, for anything. There are also some other problems with the action still. It's far from perfect. In terms of content, I'm a little behind in getting all of the old content in place. Going through the transcripts and again, creating clean transcript copies is time consuming. So right now we've only got since episode 30 something or so in there. I'll be adding the older ones bit by bit as we get to it. But right now we're not complete. But going forward, we will be complete and we'll be catching up on the previous ones.
Hey, that reminds me, how many episodes have we done?
50!
50!
50! So there are some other issues. One of the other features that I know people are going to ask us for that I can't figure out how to do in any reasonable way, and that's change the playback speed. So I know a lot of podcast listeners playback podcasts at like 1.5 or 1.75 or double the speed. I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I was wrestling with good ways to do it, and I couldn't find a good way. So we're still exploring that. Maybe I'll find a good solution. I've got some thoughts about it, but
sounds like something that should be built into the media player.
Here's the funny thing. It's built into the short length audio that's done with the media tag, but not the long form audio. So
interesting.
Yeah, it would be a nice feature to have built into the media player, but it's not right now. And media player also has some technical issues at the moment. So people in general are reporting some issues with media player. Hopefully I've worked around a bunch of them, but there's no way I could work around all of them. So if you're running into problems, let me know, but it may just be something that's completely out of my control.
Yeah, definitely give us feedback. We'd love for you to exercise it and get to understand the experience and give us feedback on how we can do it. You can do that feedback either on social media or right inside of the action as you're listening to a podcast episode.
Yep, you can just leave a comment and we will read them. I'm really looking forward to seeing what people want to do with this, what people want to try out with this, and seeing where we go with it, because that's going to be the fun bit about this. This is an experiment. And like all experiments, it's fun to see where we go next.
So that is just some awesome news. I can't believe that we're at 50 episodes.
Can't believe we're at 50.
And to celebrate it, we've got a new Google Action that is that you can play on your phone or your smart speaker or your smart display.
Yep, works almost everywhere the Google Assistant works. So certainly the major elements will be able to cover it. So we're looking forward to seeing what people have, and I'm looking forward to another 50 episodes. I don't know about you, Mark.
Yeah, I am too. So congratulations, Alan, on 50 episodes, and congratulations to our listeners. And thank you for your support. We really appreciate all that you do for us.
No, thanks to everyone, and thank you for week after week, to our audience for week after week listening to us, and for you, Mark, for week after week having these fantastic conversations. It's always great to talk with you about this technology.
No, it is, and we've become really good friends, and that's the part that's most important.
Totally agreed. So look forward to everyone trying this out, kicking the tires, see how they go, and we definitely look forward to talking to you some more, either on YouTube, on your local podcast, or via the action by saying, "Hey, G, talk to Two Voice Devs."
Two Voice Devs.
Take care, Mark.
Yeah, take care, Alan.